What's up, guys? Power of the Barn here. This is a Micaiah build that runs Olwyn 4 in it. I'm gonna be playing this build in the weekly that's happening right now, and I'm gonna be recording a few games. So I figured, though, before I record a few games and be playing with this deck, I'd basically record me explaining the deck list and my thought process behind a lot of the choices. So the big thing that separates this build from your average Micaiah build is that you run yellow instead of blue. You run Olwyn and you run colorless lens. So this is what a normal Micaiah build would look like, at least before this set. It's like a mid-game build, but it extends into the late game very nicely. You have your Ninos, you have your Mists, which help you get Micaiah to a 70 base. You run Naui. Naui is like your late game finisher, basically. This build opts to switch from blue to yellow because the existence of Myrrh means that I can run Myrrh instead of Naui. And that allows me to forego blue, because before Myrrh, Naui was kind of an essential card in Micaiah. She was Micaiah's main late game finisher, so you kind of had to run blue, and you were pretty much just shoehorned into running green, blue, purple in every Micaiah build, because green, obviously you need green in order to play Micaiah. Purple has Nino and Rebecca, which are too important not to run, and then blue has Naui, again, too important not to run. But now, since we have Myrrh, we can run Olwyn in Micaiah, and this is pretty huge because Olwyn gets to 70 during our turn because Micaiah gives our entire field plus 10. This means that Olwyn doesn't need any prior setup in order to nuke 60 base units off of the field, and most splashable units in this game are 60 base or lower. So this gives Micaiah access to some very strong field control, and it also allows Olwyn to perform a nice game-ending combo on turn 8 or afterwards of Colorless Lyn. You play both of them on the same turn, you blow up their field of Olwyn, and then you go for face with Colorless Lyn. I haven't tested this out too much, but I think that it could potentially be a really good game closer against certain decks like Grima and Elise. And Micaiah has traditionally had a very poor matchup against these decks, so the idea of being able to close out the game of this combo very efficiently in theory is something that's definitely caught my attention. So going over a few choices in the build, this build's fairly standard. Micaiah 5-3, of course, is your main promo. She's one of the best cards in the game, or one of the best MCs in the game. I never even took the time to go over her effects. Basically, one of her skills lets you take 2 copies of Micaiah from your retreat and put them in your stack. And if you do this, you have to flip a bond also. And if you do this, you get to draw a card. Her other skill, if she has a stack of 5 or higher, which she will get very quickly, the average Micaiah game, I'd say, I end with around 10 to 12 cards in the stack, because you're very encouraged to use Micaiah's skill every turn so that you can draw a card every turn. But once you get to a 5 stack or higher, Micaiah gives your entire field a plus 10 boost to their attack. So this is really nice. It makes your Nino 70, it makes your Bruno 60, it makes your Colorless Lyn 80, it makes your untapping Lincia and Misha 70, and of course it makes your Olwyn 70. So this is a really good ability, one of the main reasons why Micaiah is so good, because it allows her to really put down mid-game pressure. So, other deck choices, I've explained Myrrh. She's a very important late-game win condition in most matchups. Olwyn and Colorless Lyn function as your other late-game win condition in matchups where you're not going to be using Myrrh, matchups where you can't outstall your opponent. Rebecca is another card that highly incentivizes you to stack with Micaiah, because her support value is equivalent to how many cards you have in your stack. So in the late game, this card will literally have a support value of 100 plus. It's absolutely absurd. And I only run 12 flyers in this deck, 4 Alincia, 4 Misha, 4 Emma, mostly because Rebecca kind of just functions as a surrogate flyer. I guess we can talk about Micaiah herself. I run the maximum amount of Micaiah, 16. Most decks you get punished for running this many copies of your main character because a lot of the time you'll just end up drawing into a hand with nothing but your main character and you won't be able to do anything, and you're also going to self-support your main character a bunch. Micaiah eliminates both of these issues because Micaiah converts copies of herself into raw advantage using Shine, and since all of those copies end up in the stack, they don't go back into the deck after you shuffle. As a result, you filter out your deck quite a bit, meaning not only do you reduce the chances of self-supporting Micaiah, but you also increase the chances of drawing your other cards relative to other decks. So yeah, a lot of power Micaiah has. 16 evades allows her to function very well as anti-aggro, but Micaiah's kit also allows her to transition very smoothly into the late game. An extremely versatile MC all around. So I guess for remaining cards we haven't gone over, Nino. Nino's a staple in decks looking for any sort of sustainability whatsoever. A lot of the time you're actually not even going to be using her skill because most of the time you just won't need to, and a lot of the time you won't even have Micaiah's in your retreat either. But at the end of the day, she's a 70 beater who will give you a 1-for-1 option whenever you support her, and she has the option to increase your stability quite a bit, so she's definitely a card you want to run. 2 Bruno and 2 Guinevere. Guinevere is basically just a card to help protect against all of the orb destruction in this meta, because like Joshua's running everywhere. You got Joshua, Faye. The existence of Faye is making a lot of other MCs that deal unavoidable damage like Saber even more popular and more potent, so having access to a card that gives you an extra void or an extra orb is very appreciated. You got Bruno. He prevents your opponent from pulling you. All around just a good anti-pull is just something that I like running in most mid to late game decks. I just think it's an important thing to have. I think I put more emphasis on anti-pull than a lot of people, though. A lot of people probably wouldn't run Bruno. It's more just a personal thing, really. You can probably take these guys out, but I like running Bruno a lot. He's coming clutch in a lot of matchups, I feel like. So that just leaves a flyer. Alincia and Misha synergize naturally pretty well with Micaiah because Micaiah makes him 70, and Alincia and Misha can both untap. Alincia in particular, I feel like she was practically made to synergize with Micaiah because you growth with you attack with Alincia, she's 70, and then you growth with Micaiah, and then you untap her and she attacks for 70 again. Really strong card for pressuring your opponent in the later stages of the game. Misha can do the same thing, but unfortunately she has to flip 2 flying bonds, so most of the time you aren't actually going to be able to use this skill. Still very useful for the movement she provides. I like to think of Misha as a budget Cordelia, basically. She functions pretty similar to the Cordelia 4-3 that was a staple in the old variant that ran blue. Then you have Emma 1. You could probably run Misha 1 too if you want extra evades for Misha. I run Emma 1 though just because I appreciate the extra option that she provides the deck with. This deck honestly is kind of bond heavy, so a lot of the time you aren't going to be using her skill, but just having the option there in a pinch when you need it is nice. So yeah, that's the deck. I'm going to be recording some games of me playing this in the weekly. Look forward to those.